President Donald Trump is back in the U.S. after spending a few days abroad at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The president posted about that trip on social media this morning, saying, quote, "What a great trip to Davos it was. So many things accomplished, including the framework of a deal with NATO on Greenland. Also, the Board of Peace." Now, Trump launched his Board of Peace yesterday morning. The new international body is set to help oversee the reconstruction of Gaza. And so far, 20 countries have signed on to the initiative, but notably missing several U.S. allies like the UK and France. Here's what the president had to say about that just yesterday.
Is there a possibility that the UK or France can join the Board of Peace?
Well, I think they're going to want to. Look, most countries, some countries have a prohibition and they're going to their legislatures and getting out. In most countries, the prime minister or the president can sign. You saw a lot of them today. Don't forget, the letter only went out 2 days ago. We had almost 30 people already, and very important countries. But there are some countries, like Italy, who told me she wants to sign. She wants to be desperately, but I think she has to go back to her legislative branch, and we have that with Poland too. He said we want to. I mean, I was the one that endorsed him. He's great, by the way. He's doing a great job, Carol. But he has to get an approval. Some have to get an approval, some don't. Most don't, but some do. They have, a legal requirement to get an approval.
And on that note, let's go live to Washington and CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. Good to see you today, Olivia. So many developments happening overnight on this. What can you tell us about another U.S. ally that won't be on the Board of Peace?
Well, Mugo, it's good to see you. President Trump is now rejecting Canada from the Board of Peace and announcing that he is withholding their invitation. Let me just walk you through the renewed frosty relations between the U.S. and Canada. In Davos, their Prime Minister Mark Carney delivered a speech essentially calling for a change to the world order, saying that the U.S. or that Canada cannot rely on the United States anymore, and that those smaller Western allies need to band together to create their own new world order and have stronger relations with those allies rather than relying on the U.S. Well, President Trump heard that speech and took issue with it. In his speech, he said that Canada should be grateful because they get a lot of freebies from the United States. He went on to say, "I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. Canada lives because the United States. Remember that, Mark, next time you make your statements." Well, then Prime Minister Carney responded to that, saying that Canada doesn't live because the United States. Canada thrives because we're Canadian. We are the masters in our own house. This is our own country. This is our future. And as a result, President Trump wrote on True Social a letter to Mark Carney late last night saying, "Please let this letter serve to represent that the Board of Peace is withdrawing its invitation to Canada as joining in what will be the most prestigious board ever assembled." So very frosty relations now with the U.S. neighbors to the north, Canada. The president withholding that invitation from them to join the Board of Peace. And of course, this comes as there has been many issues with the U.S.-Canada relationship this year, especially as it relates to tariffs. They were getting on a good track, but it seems that now they are back off track, and these two leaders are not having it with each other.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, Olivia. Let's get to the other big headline coming out of the president's trip, and of course, that is Greenland. Did he make any progress in his bid to take over the Danish territory?
Well, he says that there's negotiations ongoing, but a lot of questions from the European side, NATO, and the Trump administration as to what these negotiations look like. The president says they're going to be led by Vice President Vance, Secretary Rubio, his whole slate of his whole team that he trusts to handle foreign affairs. But the Europeans are starting to do these negotiations with the U.S. Still a lot of questions about what specifically the U.S. is looking for, if it's still that level of acquisition that President Trump has been talking about, or if it's perhaps something like increased military standing on the island of Greenland. Take a listen to what President Trump said yesterday on his way home from Davos about this, specifically the negotiations and what he's really looking for.
Greenland's going very well. It's in negotiation, and I think what we did today was great. It was great. It's going to be a great board. That'll be a board, I think, like no other, right? That's a board like no other. A lot of people joining. We just went out with the letters to be able to do whatever we want to. We're all going to work together, and actually NATO is going to be involved with us. We're going to be doing it in conjunction, parts of it in conjunction with NATO, which is really the way it should be. And we won't have any expense because we're not going to have expense other than building the Golden Dome.
Now, the Golden Dome is the key part to that. That's why President Trump says the U.S. actually needs Greenland, is to help build that missile defense system that would protect northern America. So that's what they say the end goal is. But of course, these negotiations are now ongoing. The president said there will be an update in the next 2 weeks as to how they're going. And we know that there are conversations that will be happening very frequently with Vice President Vance, Secretary Rubio, members of NATO, and those European allies, including the foreign ministers of Denmark as well.
All right, we'll see what comes next. Olivia Rinaldi, thank you so much for your time today.